Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio Live. We're here in our Chantilly, Virginia studios, and it's a beautiful snowy day. And unfortunately, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. for our spiritist meeting there. But we are here with you at Cardiac Radio. And you're welcome to join us. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is probably the most difficult topics of all, and we are welcoming you to join us to reflect on the beauty of this teaching, Love Your Enemies. It's really past 2,000 years. It's past 2,000 years, and yet it's hard to understand what it is to love our enemies. We're going to say a prayer first so we can dive into the teachings of the gospel and have all of us meditate on this commandment that was passed on to us by Jesus. Shall we? We welcome you to pray. Dear Mother, Father God, may you bless this moment of reflection, though short, reinforcing in us the need to adjust ourselves to your divine and loving providence. May we feel your loving call and spread the good news in every thought, in every feeling, in every word, in every action, and so be it. All right, welcome, dear friends. We're going to read a little bit of the Gospel according to Spiritism. As you can see, chapter 12 of the Gospel according to Spiritism by Kardec talks about love your enemies. And it begins by talking about rendering good for evil, talks about discarnate enemies. It talks about a passage when Jesus said that if somebody strikes our cheek, we should offer the other one. And then there are three main messages of the spirits, superior spirits given through the mediums at Kardec time. One about vengeance, another one about hatred, and another one about dwelling. Before I read this message, let us ask ourselves, it's about feeling, it's an assessment. Do you think you love your enemies? Many people are going to say, but I don't have enemies. So what is an enemy? Right? It's someone whom we feel a negative feeling about constantly, and we feel threatened by that person. Okay? So if there is anyone in your life whom you feel that person is a threat to my well-being, and I only have negative thoughts about that person is an enemy for you. Somebody who threatens your well-being. Is it a reality or is it a mental creation? It may be either. Exactly, it may be either of them. We would say, according to deep psychology, that most often we are the ones who create our enemies. In the book Harvest of Light, Portuguese Ceifa de Luz, Emmanuel has a message named spiritual immunization, and he says that there are two types of enemies in life. One that we'll inevitably have because they just so happen, and Jesus had them as well, says Emmanuel. But there is another type of enemy that we create due to our culture of intolerance, and we'll pay a high price for it. So, for all of us today, it's a call to love those that feel like a threat in our lives. But are they really a threat? Or is that just the way we are perceiving them? According to neuroscience, in recent studies, the problem we have in life is in decoding erroneously the stimulus or the stimuli that come to us. If we decode it differently, we may feel differently. So, in nature, A rabbit is a rabbit. A lion is a lion. In human lives, a rabbit may be perceived as a lion, and a lion may be perceived as a rabbit, because we have consciousness and we have the power of free will to change the meaning of things, people, everything in our lives. So that's very empowering in itself. When Jesus says, love your enemy, he's first and foremost asking us to revisit the way we are seeing people. Are they really, really a threat in our lives? Because there are those in the beyond, as Kardec says in the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 12, that the discarnate enemies that do not want us to be at peace with people. They want us to be always fighting, struggling, bickering with people because they don't want us happy. And thus, we may buy into that hypnotic suggestion. Yes, we may influence other people and people may influence us, incarnates and discarnates, to the point that we may start perceiving people in ways that they are not. And then our lives become miserable. We start seeing enemies, threats in everyone, and unnecessarily creating enemies. Jesus asked us to make friends, and many people, due to their previous lives' issues and their poor childhood, emotionally speaking, they then project their conflicts in all of their relationships. So today, as we are in this beautiful day of 2019, we're being invited to meditate on how we can love our enemies. The good spirits in the Spirit's book, in the Gospel According to Spiritism, they mention to us about vengeance. There are many people, including spiritists, who are avenging others. How? Creating plots, manipulating, gossiping, slandering. And that's a way of avenging someone. Okay, so we have to be very careful. There is a spirit named Jules Olivier who wrote this message about vengeance in the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 12. Vengeance is one of the last remnants arising from barbaric customs that tend to be erased among human beings. Like dwelling, it is one of the last vestiges of those primitive customs under which humankind struggled at the beginning of the Christian era. This is why vengeance is a sure indication of the backwardness of persons who indulge in it, and of the spirits who can still inspire it. Therefore, my friends, this sentiment must never live within the heart of anyone who claims to be a spiritist. As you well know, vengeance is so contrary to Christ's prescription, forgive your enemies, that those who refuse to forgive not only are not spiritists, but they are not even Christians. Pause. I know of spiritists who even tape videos saying that you don't need to exactly push yourself to forgive. That's a fallacy, because according to Jesus Christ's teachings and the Spiritist teachings, as you're reading this message in the Gospel According to Spiritism, forgiveness is a Spiritist attitude. So postponing it, creating a gradual system, is not in the literature. It's not in the recommendations of the Christ. We are recommended to forgive and to forget. When? Today. Not tomorrow. Not one day. Not in the next life. Is it hard? Yes. Because we're still very animalistic. And the Spirit Jules Olivier continues, vengeance is all the more ruinous when falsehood and wickedness are its assiduous companions. In fact, those who indulge in this deadly and blind passion almost never seek revenge openly. When such persons are the stronger, they fall like voracious beasts upon those whom they call their enemies, once the sight of them has inflamed their passion, anger, and hatred. However, more often than not, they put on a hypocritical appearance, hiding in the depths of their heart the evil sentiments that animate them. They secretly follow their unsuspecting enemies in the darkness and wait for the opportune moment to strike, without endangering themselves. Hiding from them, they incessantly watch them. They prepare hateful traps for them, and when the opportunity arises, they pour the poison in the cup. When their hatred does not reach such extremes, they attack their enemies' honor and affections. They do not recoil at slander, and their perfidious insinuations, skillfully sown on the four winds, grow larger along the way. Consequently, when those who are being persecuted appear in places where their persecutor's poisonous breath has passed, they are astonished at encountering cold faces where they used to find friendly and benevolent ones. They are stupefied when hands previously extended now refuse to shake theirs. Finally, they are shattered when their dearest friends and relatives avoid and run from them. Cowards who avenge themselves like this are 100 times guiltier than those who go straight to their enemies and insult them to their face. Thus, be gone with such primitive customs. Be gone with the ways of days gone by. Any spiritist who today still claims to have the right to seek vengeance would be unworthy of being counted any longer in the phalanx that has taken as its motto, without charity there is no salvation. But no, I would not hold on to such idea, the idea that a member of the great Spiritist family could in the future ever yield to the impulse of vengeance instead of forgiveness. This is a message by Jules Olivier, chapter 12 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. So let's break it down before we read the next two messages in this book. How many people avenge? Many. The problem is if we do. People will disappoint you. And yet, the choice not to react is yours. If people create plots against you, it's their problem. It's their choice. But if you make a choice to create plots against them, it's your problem. If people create slander, they slander you, it's their problem. But if you slander them, it's your problem. Jesus, our Master, came from the highest connections of on high. He was misunderstood. He was mistreated. He was slandered. He was betrayed. And he shared with us that if you followed him, if you really follow his steps, people will likely do the same to you. So if right now you're experiencing that, don't feel yourself as a victim. Rejoice. but do not avenge. Let people be who they are. And as Mentor Joseph always reminds us, let's focus on the people who are suffering. Because when we spend a Facebook post or a word, an action, an attitude, focusing on people's bad behavior, we are giving less attention to those who are in need. Let them be. You are free to do the good. Do not react. Do not be contaminated by people's own conflicts. Let them be. Exactly. And on earth and in this universe, there is nobody who is more than us. No one. Every one of us, we are equally loved by God. We're equally important before God. Though many people have the illusion that they are superior to others, that they are superior because they have a position of power, or because they have more money, or because they have beauty, or because they have health. And after death, we're surprised to know that none of those conditions actually raised us up. Even in Spiritism, no matter if you are the president of a Spiritist organization, a Spiritist center or not, none of us are better than each other. No. And the illusion that we're going to discarnate and have a better place because of those positions that are temporary and are simply roles of work. Yes, they are positions to call us to work and to serve and to love, not to feel better than others. When we discarnate, we find out that sometimes the person who cleans the bathroom is in a better spiritual position in the spiritual realm than those who were the CEOs of many companies. So why avenge? But the question is, how do we avenge, right? How? We may avenge, as Jules Olivier says, by insulting, hitting, killing. Or we may avenge in a passive-aggressive way, sabotaging good works, sabotaging the works of others, and thus creating slanders, gossiping, right? Creating circles of preference and privilege. We've done that in previous lives, and it hurt. We can no longer do that. We see that in children of small age, when they feel upset and they return evil for evil. And the gospel says, render good for evil. So not only would do not avenge, but we also are being called to do the good. But we can only do that if we revisit who the threatening person or the enemy is. Jesus, in one of his passages in the book, Jesus in the Home, tells us that the people who hurt us often are sick and troubled. No one who is truly happy will spend their times and day creating plots against others, bullying, humiliating others. So if others do it to us, may God continue blessing them till they open their eyes and hearts and see otherwise. But if we do it, that's our problem. Many families have problems because they avenge amongst themselves in little actions. It's in family reunions that we see this opportunity to love. We also need to respect the government of our countries. Because if we are the ones slandering, bad-mouthing, sending bad vibrations, we're bad citizens in that country. We're not loving those who may seem to be a threat, but in God's eyes, they have to perform their position. Who is our guide and model? Jesus. Have you ever heard of Jesus bad-mouthing Caesar? Have you? No. Have you heard of Jesus creating plots against Caesar? No. So why are we gonna do it if we are spiritists? I cannot use my social media to put anybody down. That's not charitable. What kinds of emanations am I emitting when I'm constantly, chronically indignated with everyone in our lives? I am sick. And if I am sick, I need treatment. Which treatment? The treatment of love. And that's why we're going to read the second Spirit's message by the Spirit Fenelon. This is item 10 of chapter 12 of the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. Hatred. Love one another and you'll be happy. Above all, assume the duty of loving those who inspire you with indifference, hatred, and scorn. Christ, whom you should make your model, gave you an example of such devotion, a missionary of love. He loved to the point of giving his blood and his life. The sacrifice that obliges you to love those who offend and persecute you is painful. But it is precisely this type of sacrifice that will raise you above them. If you hate them, as they hate you, you're worth no more than they are. Such sacrifice is the spotless host offered to God on the altar of your hearts. A sweet-smelling host whose fragrance rises up to him. Even though the law of love wants us to love our brothers and sisters without distinction, it does not shield the heart against harmful conduct. On the contrary, it is the most painful trial. I know it well, because during my last earthly existence I experienced such torment. But God is ever present and punishes either in this life or in another all those who disregard the law of love. My dear children, do not forget that love brings us close to God, whereas hate keeps us from Him. I know even in spiritist circles, people who gather together to talk ill things about other people, creating plots. Friends, each moment we spend talking too much, evaluating people's lives, it's a moment that I'm not constructing anything. And what is hatred? The opposite of love. In life, there is only one law, the law of the mental field. André Luiz explains in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship. I attract what I emit. I can only choose constructive mental currents or destructive ones. There are people who tell me, but Vanessa, I'm just talking a little bit. But there's no neutral position. Is it good or is it bad? Is it constructing or is it destructing? But, no, there's no but. It's either or. Look at your phone. When you go to any place, you click on your Wi-Fi and there is a list of networks. And you connect to only one. You don't connect in both at the same time. At each minute of our lives, we're connecting to one network, not two. It's impossible to be constructive and destructive at the same time. So it's not a choice. And as he says, Fenelon says, it's hard, but either we choose love or hatred. But I need to talk. Okay, then talk to your therapist, a good one. Then talk to God through prayers. Talk to Jesus, your guardian angels. But spending time complaining about others, slandering, talking bad, feeling a pity party is destructive. Either we are constructing or destructing. We need to teach our children from the get-go. Choose your emotions. Choose your thoughts. Oh, I don't like this food. What are you doing now? Being constructive or destructive? Destructive. You are ungrateful for those who made the food and gave to you. Oh, but can't I say it? I don't think so. I think you need to be grateful. If you're gonna eat, it's another story of choice. But I don't need to be destructive. I don't need to be destructive only seeing ill things in people. If I don't believe in the good, I won't be able to build a community. If I do not tolerate the differences, I will not be able to have any family or gathering. So today we're assessing ourselves if we are waking up to feel the good or just to focus on new things. Do the good. Use your network not to show indignation, but to share the good, to share the beauty of life, and let people who are doing evil things to themselves. And if they do to you, still you have a choice not to react. Animals react because they need to defend themselves. Humans do not need to react. We need to reflect and take an action, which is a different thing. And you may be asking, Vanessa, but how do I do it? When I feel threatened, my physiology is turning on the sympathetic system, which is the fight or flight. To turn it off and turn on the parasympathetic, which is the relaxed one, I need to breathe in and out, the abdominal breathing. Breathing through the nose. Hold it. Breathe out slowly. And through that exercise, somebody is saying something that I dislike, doing something that I dislike, that I feel as a threat. Breathe in and out. When you feel yourself not contaminated, no longer in the reaction mode, then you think, why is this person doing this? Why are they creating a plot? They are not happy. If they are not fraternal, they are not kind. They may be envious, jealous. They may feel spite towards us. Then we look at them and see somebody who is sick. Jesus taught us this mechanism. And In that, my compassion boosts. I smile and I raise my thoughts to God, like Jesus did at the cross, and say, "Oh Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing," creating dissensions, disrespecting people, undermining people. And we say, "Please, Father, help me, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And I start visualizing rays of healing light enveloping all of them. Rays of love. And then I no longer react. I stop the chain of reactivity and I focus on those who are suffering. I start praying for the people who are doing evil. Sometimes it's a boss that is off track. I pray. Do you pray for the people in your work? If you clean homes, do you pray every time you go clean a house? Those people are not in your life by chance. Do you pray for them? Do you pray every time you come to your work, you arrive at work? Do you pray when you're leaving so you can go home and meet the family with your heart open for love? So for all of us, that's the way you start loving, by emanating good wishes, by emanating good thoughts. Love your enemy means, first and foremost, give a new meaning to that enemy. That enemy is somebody who is not well. One day we won't say anybody is an enemy. Jesus didn't take offense. Didn't take offense. Jesus didn't feel like people were doing that to him. He understood by the mechanisms of the mind that people were actually sick, reacting to life without consciousness. And we see that daily wherever we are. Right? So for all of us, it's an opportunity to choose. Am I going to enter the network of love? Every day, at every thought, you have two networks in your mental Wi-Fi. Love network and hatred network. When I love, there's no condition. When I say, but I'm not going to dedicate myself all that much, so then you're choosing the hatred network. You're confiscating love. It's like energy supply, oxygen supply. You're just giving 50% of oxygen, the oxygen of love, in your relationships. And then no wonder relationships crumble up. Because we're not giving 100% of the oxygen of love from us to others. We're selfish. We're egotistic. And then the last message on love your enemies is about dwelling. It's a long message and has many spirits telling about it. And we're going to talk specially about the message by the spirit Augustine, the man of the world, the happy man, who because of an offensive word or a slight matter throws away the life that has come to him from God, or who throws away the life of his fellow man, a life that belongs to God alone, is 100 times guiltier than the wretch who, compelled by greed or sometimes by necessity, goes into someone's home to steal what he covets and kills those who stand in this way. The latter is almost always an uneducated man with only imperfect notions of good and evil, whereas the dweller almost always belongs to the more educated class. One kills brutally, the other with method and politeness, which makes society excuse him. I would even add that the dweller is infinitely guiltier than the wretch who yields to a sentiment of revenge and kills in a moment of exasperation. The dweller cannot use a fit of compassion as an excuse, because between the offense and the reparation there is always time to reflect. Hence, he acts coldly and with premeditation. Everything is calculated and studied in order to slay his adversary more surely. It is true that he also endangers his own life, and this is what justifies the duel in the eyes of the world, because it is seen as an act of courage and a disdain for one's own life. However, is there true courage when one is sure of himself? The duel, a remnant of barbaric times in which might makes right, was the law, will disappear with a saner appreciation of the point of honor and to the degree that people put a more ardent faith in the future life. This is very deep because there are many people whom in their families, at work, in their communities, they feel offended and they start dwelling mentally first. Read chapter 20 of the book In the Domains of Mediumship. André Luiz, through Chico Xavier, tells us about a woman who is being cheated upon by her husband, and she doesn't know who is the lover. But she sits at her bed and starts thinking, contemplating, who is she? She's guessing who that woman is. And André Luiz describes to us with vivid details that woman is also thinking of the wife, of the man that is in between them. And little by little, as they start that mental battle, it's as if the other woman who is incarnated is almost materialized in front of her. Read the chapter. I'm not creating words. And André Luiz summarizes that majority of homes on earth live a mental battle. Because instead of focusing on those who are suffering, people are focusing on their little petty competitions. And here, in this message about dwelling, o duelo in Portuguese, people say, I don't dwell. Well, it depends. If you keep power struggling with people at home, at work, in the spirit center, you're dwelling. And that's not charitable. You are in a war, and there's a price. Because the minute we enter the frequency of a persecutor, of someone, we open the door for those who persecute us. And that's why in this chapter, Kardec talks about the discarnate enemies. If I become an obsessor in somebody's life, I will also open opportunities to be obsessed. Rarely, if ever, people will be obsessed if they are not either self-obsessing or obsessing someone else. And what is obsession? Medium's book by Kardec, chapter 23, first paragraph. Obsession is a persistent negative influence of a spirit over another, maybe incarnated or discarnated. If I wake up every day feeling hatred or disgust, spite, envy, jealousy, anything negative about somebody every day, you can use a badge, obsessor. Do not try to be the justice maker on the earth, because that's dangerous. Leave justice to God, because only God can make justice. I know even spiritists who claim to be the justice makers on earth, trying with their systems to annul people's works and actions, creating a list of names, like a blacklist, right? Writing down the names of the people who are misbehaving, the books that are bad. Again, when we are in that position, we're tuning with spirits that look at us and say, oh, really? And you think you have a clean chart? Do you think you have a clean chart? Enough to be avenging somebody or persecuting or make justice? Who are we to cast a stone at anybody? We want a new year, a happy new year. How? By loving and only loving. I cannot live a happy life by daily bad-mouthing anything or anyone, including the government of our country. You want to be an obsessor? Always thinking negatively about your president, your mayor, the governor of your state, your representatives. We spiritists can no longer go there. What can we do to help? Pray for them. Pray and assist. Pray for your boss. Pray for your colleagues. Pray that they also feel the light of love that always embraces them, sustaining their lives. Pray for your family members. Everyone matters in our lives. Pray especially for those who make themselves a threat to you. Because one day we will discover that they are not an actual threat. They were just out of their calibration, like we may be ourselves. And when we stop being the child that expects the world to hold ourselves in the arms, we will begin to cooperate with God. You are co-creator, so am I. We're being asked today in this short reflection together to do one exercise. At every moment in our lives, when I turn on my Wi-Fi, mental Wi-Fi, I have two networks to choose from: love or hatred, constructive or destructive. Which one you're going to choose at all times? Let us focus on that decision and decide to love always and give a new meaning to everyone, and visualize ourselves already at a time when everything is going to be more fraternal, more compassionate, kinder, and more charitable. When the love of God will expand itself on earth to the point that we'll no longer see its absence. Friends, only love exists in the world. Forget about what people think of you. They don't know you. God knows you, and you know it. Focus on it, and remember when Jesus said, you want to know the tree? Look at its fruits. Somebody who does the good always must have good inside. Because those who do not do good always can be seen in the absence of the fruits when we observe their treetops. But let us observe our treetop and see the fruits that we are yet to produce and focus on doing the good. Only seeking the good, feeling the good that comes from God, visualizing that good and molding the good with all the resources we have at hand. Nowadays, you and I have more influence in the world than before. So use your social media not to spread justice maker things. Spread love and only love. And when you find out that people are casting stones to people, be the one who is a helping and compassionate hand, and embrace that person with love and only love. Right, friends? A big hug to each one of you. Thank you. Thank you for being together and share the good wherever you are. Because there is only one law, the law of love. May we thank God for the teachings of Spiritism that sustain our lives in these moments of trials and expiations. Soon our earth will be in a different mode. Let us regenerate ourselves so regeneration may come true on earth. Big hug, friends, and until next time.